Oh, there you are. Come in, come in. And welcome to the second day of spooky season. So, I guess we should do something scary, right? How about, a crawler story? Even though, now that I think about it, I'm not sure what really makes that story so scary. Just some skinny, slow-moving man. But, wait. Oh, he's naked!
My husband and I lived on a small farm. We had been living there about a year when this happened. One evening, I had just finished putting the horses away for the night. I thought about how weird that animal looked while I walked to the house. A few weeks later, in the early morning, I'm woken up by the dogs carrying on. I went back to the house. I went back to sleep. Thinking about it now, it was so strange how I just went back to bed after seeing that thing. I didn't wake up my husband. I didn't even tell him what happened. When I thought about the creature, I began to feel bad for it and less afraid of it. A month went by, and I was out riding. I saw it again. I saw it a few more times, looking at me from the woods. Then I stopped seeing it. I haven't said anything about it until recently. I did tell my husband and sister eventually. I don't think my husband believes me, but my sister said she saw it one afternoon, watching her from the woods. What was that thing?
That was a pretty scary start, but we have way more scary fun videos coming. Next we have... Note to self: summoning Satan is a bad idea. Everyone seems to start these stories with, "I'm skeptical, but..." So this time won't be an exception. However, I am not an atheist. So my friends and I had a bottle of gasoline. We were all car guys, so we sometimes had contaminated gas left over. Anyways, we wanted to get rid of it, and the only way we could think of doing that would be to go and start a fire in a field. The three of us, giggling, made our way to the nearest cornfield that had an opening. We decided to get as much stuff as possible to burn. Dry leaves, branches, anything that we could find, along with our half-gallon of 92-octane gasoline. Both of my friends were filming the whole process as I poured gasoline all over the place. Sam shouted, "We're summoning Satan!" We all laughed it off and didn't pay much attention to it. After all, it was time to start the fire. The whole thing went pretty well. No one got hurt. We didn't set the field on fire or anything. We just fooled around and enjoyed the fire. Sam's phone started glitching while filming. It was really weird. The recording continued, but the picture turned black and white. And what it seemed like copied itself and posted 8 red-tinted semi-transparent smaller versions of itself on the screen in a grid-like pattern. It stayed like that for a few seconds, and then the phone turned off. We just laughed at Sam's now broken phone and went home as it was really late by that time. The next morning, my other friend Chris and I met. We were waiting for Sam to arrive and complete the trio. We were making plans for that evening, discussing ways we could gain world dominance and whatnot. That's when we saw Sam come up to us, pale as hell and his eyes screaming terrified. Turns out his phone was all right, and even saved the video with the glitch as it was. Immediately before coming to see us, he watched it and thought he saw a ghost. As the image on his screen collapsed into some red-tinted shatter, he turned away from the fire to see better and get a grasp of what was happening to his phone. Pointing the camera away from the fire, into the corn, there, in the cornfield, it looked like there was something looking at the fire. Well, yes, there are many things that can cause you to see something in this situation. The camera actually glitching, the fact that it was so dark and the fire was so big can make shadows appear. Maybe some light reflected off something. Some water. Another phone. The car. This thing, if it existed, which we doubted and sure as hell wanted to doubt, was standing there, looking towards the fire as if it were a fourth friend just hanging out with us. We then decided to watch the video on Chris's phone to make sure it was just glare. After we wish we hadn't, as there it was again, this time more distinct than before. When Chris's phone was pointed at the cornfield, we could see a face staring at the fire. Or maybe it was staring at us, with an evil smile. Just a face peeking out of the corn. No body, no nothing, no glare, no glitching. It's been years since that happened. We're still kind of skeptical about it, or at least try to be. But with all the facts combined, we still, till this day, can't find a reasonable explanation. We even tried to repeat the thing with the fire, and took a bunch of cameras with us. But none of us would do it at night the way we did the first time.
We've not had any luck finding ghosts in broad daylight. And unless we all decide one day that we'll do it at night again, I don't expect we'll ever see the ghost again. When Officer Sanchez arrived at the abandoned asylum, he had no idea the creature had mimicked the call from the officers before. Just like it had mimicked the 911 call from the teens before them. Sanchez's body lay limp like a rag doll as the creature spoke into the radio.
Officer needs assistance.
There's a 100-year-old farmhouse, the old Hammett homestead, situated near the boundary line of Wareham and Middleborough, Massachusetts. In its 100 years, it has been the scene of 2 known murders, though now people are suspecting the number might be much higher than that. The last recorded murder was the tragic murder of a little girl. She was found beheaded in the house's cellar. No arrests were made. It was a terrible mystery that was never solved, and everyone forgot about, until 3 weeks ago. Some school children were on their way home when they saw a girl run out of the old farmhouse screaming. She was immediately followed by a tall, shadowy man who grabbed her and started pulling her towards the house. The girl resisted, so the man hit her on the head and dragged her body inside. The children were frozen in place watching. They watched until the man dragged the girl to a part of the house that couldn't be seen from the windows. Then a loud sound was heard, followed by the sound of many screaming women. This screaming snapped the children out of their trance and sent them all running for home. The next night, 8 young men met up in the woods bordering the house of the alleged sightings to investigate. From their position in the woods, the men could see both men and women frantically walking past the windows, and unearthly shrieks could be heard. Then, as quickly as it started, it all stopped. The light, the shrieks, and the frantic movement, all gone. A half an hour the men waited and saw nothing going on in the old house. After half an hour, the house was again illuminated. This time, the 8 men, suspecting this was some sort of trick or prank, ran towards the farmhouse. But as they got closer, the light, the sounds, and the people would vanish. At this point, one of the men abandoned the other 7 and ran to the village. When he arrived, he was carrying on about what he saw and passed out. The other men didn't see anything else, so they returned to the village and confirmed everything the first man had said happened. 2 nights later, a man and his family were passing by the house while on the way to New Bedford. The house appeared to be on fire. The horses were so frightened, they started running and wouldn't stop until they were a quarter mile away. The horses refused to turn around, so the man went on foot to see what was wrong. The road he was on was curved, so he decided to walk through a small wooded area to save some time. While walking through the wooded patch, he lost sight of the house for a moment and could not find it again, even when out of the woods in front of where the house was. The man was confused by this and continued to New Bedford, where he told people what had happened. With the news of the haunting spreading, some well-known professional spiritualists went to visit the property. While they didn't see anything, they reported hearing female voices, sometimes singing, sometimes screaming, and a deep pounding sound like a bass drum. A gentleman named William R. Luce, who lives near the Middleborough line, has also come forward about the paranormal activity at the old farmhouse. He says that while passing by one evening, he noticed the lights from inside the house. He was worried the abandoned property was being used by thieves and degenerates, and stopped his horse. He could see through the window a group of women moving frantically up the stairs. Then a series of screams and thuds as one of the women appeared to be thrown down the steps. Mr. Luce ran over to investigate, but as he approached, the lights dimmed. The people faded, and the house stood there abandoned. The owner of the property, Mr. Gibbs, is now petitioned daily to tear down the place. Some locals are worried that someone will take matters into their own hands and burn it down themselves. What was at one point considered by everyone to be a childish prank is now being taken very seriously after all of these sightings. My dad ran into my room late at night and told me there was a monster in his room that I should not trust. That's when I heard my dad's muffled screaming coming from his room, begging me for help.
Well, that's it for day 2. Don't forget to take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you all again tomorrow.